Hello and welcome to Face Off here on France 24. Too much suffering and not enough hope. Those were the very first words uttered by France's new Prime Minister Manuel Valls this Tuesday before Parliament as he delivered his first major policy speech and asked for a vote of confidence. This is Manuel Valls' first political test since he was appointed by President François Hollande last week, following a disastrous result for the ruling socialists in local elections. So is Manuel Valls, who was until his nomination a popular interior minister, already a very different prime minister than his predecessor, Jean-Marc Ayrault. With me on the set, Philippe Turle from Radio France Internationale and Jean-Marc Gonin with Le Figaro magazine. So this Tuesday, Manuel Valls delivered his major policy speech, 47 minutes, and he started by saying that, yes, he had listened to what the French had to say in those disastrous local elections. Let's take a listen to Manuel Valls as the opposition conservatives were jeering him.
In these local elections, the French people told us through their votes or through the historic rate of abstention that they were disappointed. They expressed their doubts, their unhappiness, and at times, their anger. They told us about their fear for the future, their futures, and that of their children.
We listened to you, and we're going to act more concretely, more quickly, and so on. Jean-Marc Gonin, we'll go back. There were several announcements about tax cuts, administrative reform, and so on. But first of all, the style of Manuel Valls compared to Jean-Marc Ayrault.
As you said, his speech was 47 minutes long. That is half of what Jean-Marc Ayrault's first speech in front of the Parliament was back in July 2012. So half the time. He's been there. He's been called to this office, to this very office, to add efficiency. He has tried to have an efficient style during his speech. He didn't. Usually, a prime minister goes in every corner of the policies. He quotes, he cites, he goes in on every field of his general policy. He didn't. He was focused, concise, on the topics that are urgent. That is employment, economy, soothing the French, as you mentioned, soothing those people who were frustrated, who expressed their frustration at the polls, but he also opened doors and sketched what's going to be the cuts that he's going to implement very soon.
Right, Philippe Turle, Manuel Valls built his personality as a kind of truth teller. In his speech, he said, I owe you the truth. We need to be sincere, and so on. Do you feel that he was able to convey this through this a fairly short speech and quite concrete speech, because he didn't give a vision of France. He said, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how it's going to work.
Well, this is a make or break situation for Manuel Valls. We've had the Manuel Valls who was the interior minister, who was operating by himself, if you like, who was a one-man show, the most popular minister in France.
We can see a poll actually comparing his popularity ratings with François Hollande's, but go ahead.
So the question everyone is asking now is, when he was the interior minister and the most popular minister in France, running by himself, does that make him what's going to be the man who will lead an orchestra? Will he be as strong as a prime minister when he's controlling the whole government? Nobody knows for the time being. I watched this speech and several things struck me. The first one was the repetition of the word confidence, which is something that French people don't have anymore in politicians, in the economy, in their ability to buy more, to find jobs. And Manuel Valls has tried to install this feeling that now that he's in charge, he's going to give back confidence to people. There was also this play towards the Greens, who are not in this government, who've pulled out of this government because they don't like Manuel Valls.
They refuse to go into his government.
Refuse to go into government with him. He wants them to vote the vote of confidence, obviously playing towards them to try to seduce them to support him. That was quite obvious. And the third thing that that struck me was the the lowering of taxes in France, the boost to the economy, the boost to companies. He went back several times and said, yes, we're going to give back the confidence to companies, to people who earn small amounts of money, to those on the minimum wage who will have their social contributions brought down or totally done away with, which will give them more spending power and will boost companies who will be able to take them on. There's, I think, a willingness on the part of Manuel Valls to give back this confidence, the word he kept using all the time. We'll see whether it works. It was a speech that was energetic, but I think it wasn't a speech up there with some of his predecessors who've obviously been in the same position, who have made more inspiring speeches in the past.
There's a line to add on what you just said. There's a line he gave which was interesting. He said, "Trust means growth, and growth means trust."
Right.
That's
and
really
he also,
needed.
I mean, within the Socialist Party, Manuel Valls is to the right, and you could see this when he said, I'm not ashamed of saying, yes, we need companies. We need companies to create a job. We need the corporate world. And he announced lowering, this was more or less announced, but in very vague terms. He was much more precise. We won't go into the technical details, but a raft of tax cuts for both companies, but also for households, because probably he knows that he has to balance this kind of corporate-friendly image with a more socialist one.
Yes, he tried a balancing act, but you could feel, you could also read tweets by left-wing MPs of the Socialist Party expressing their doubts about the speech, saying there's no space there to negotiate. He's imposing this on us. I will abstain. There are many tweets going around. There were many tweets going on during his speech. So he's notorious. He will be under watch of the left wing, and some votes might lack at the end of the road today. Although he will have many Greens going along with him.
What is unclear about all this is we heard all these proposals to reduce taxes, to boost companies, to give people more spending power, but it hasn't been very, very clear where this extra money is going to come from. Manuel Valls was quite explicit about the French debt and how much it's increased over the last 10 years. Obviously, the state needs the money to pay the debt off. If they're going to reduce taxes on companies and on individuals, it's unclear where the government's going to find this extra money.
Right, but what's new, and that's probably related to the electoral rout that they suffered this Sunday, is that until then they said, okay, we're going to cut 50 billion euros in the next 3 years. But now they're announcing that also individuals, households, will also pay lower tax, because one of the lines that I found interesting is Manuel Valls acknowledging, yes, the taxes for households have been raising too much, and we need to alleviate. And this is clearly not what was in the works until now.
No, and this is a bet he's taking, and this is a big gamble. That might go wrong. I mean, the money that I agree with you, Philip. The money that will lack at the end of the day, he thinks at least relaunching growth by with trust and alleviating companies' taxes on companies might boost growth. And when you have growth, you have more tax income coming into the treasury.
That's a bet, as you
But
say.
that's a bet.
And that might be something that Brussels, which is keeping a very close eye on France, might not accept, because they might be in favor of cutting payroll taxes for a company, but lower income tax means more spending cuts if you want to stay within the 3% GDP deficit target that Brussels is so attached to.
The French economy minister is already, I think, trying to negotiate with Brussels to extend the deadline that Brussels has given France to reach the 3% GDP deadline, because they're not going to meet the target. It's a gamble, as Jean-Marc says, because if you listen to what François Hollande said when he was trying to be elected in the election campaign in 2012, he said, the financial world is my enemy, and announcing increased tax of 75% for all those who are earning over €1 million a year, which has led many people who earn high amounts of money to leave France. It's had the adverse effects. So now we have a complete U-turn with Manuel Valls saying, no, we're going to lower taxes, we're going to lower the income tax on individuals as well to boost spending power, to boost growth. Hopefully, it's the last ditch bid by this government to try to redress the situation and to win back the confidence of the French people, which they've totally lost. And that explains why they lost so many town halls in the recent municipal elections. So François Hollande has his back against the wall. He's named a prime minister he didn't want to name. He's named the most popular minister in France to try to win back support. He's playing out towards the population, saying, OK, I'm going to bring down the tax rates in this country. You have confidence in us. That word confidence coming back again. Well, we'll see whether people are going to buy into this and whether he has the confidence of the French afterwards.
Do you think Manuel Valls has a better chance of succeeding than Jean-Marc Ayrault?
Well, at least he will try a new policy that is more favorable to companies. They run empty with what they have tried until now, the first 2 years. So trying to boost the companies is what the Conservatives have been asking for 2 years. In the eyes of many MPs, it looks like a rightist policy, but I think it's the only one, the only road they can take right now. Let's see if Brussels buys it, and that will be also another gamble.
The bottom line is that there's a change in Prime Minister. He's certainly more dynamic than Jean-Marc Ayrault, who made one of those boring policy speeches when he became Prime Minister. Manuel Valls is a more dynamic, more speedy type of character who's been compared to Nicolas Sarkozy on many occasions. But the politics in France will remain the same. The policies of François Hollande will remain the same. They're the same ones that were being introduced under the former Prime Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault. If you like, it's like window dressing with a new team, which is pretty much the same as the old team with a new Prime Minister doing the same job. Will that be enough to win back the support of the French? As one of his predecessors said, Jean-Pierre Raffarin, when he was doing his policy speech, the road is long, but the climb is steep. And I think you can apply that same sentence to also what Manuel Valls is going to have to do now that he's Prime Minister.
On those words of wisdom, I want to thank both of you and thank you for watching this edition of Face Off. We'll see how Manuel Valls fares as Prime Minister. Clearly, this is a major gamble for François Hollande. We'll see how this unfolds in the coming weeks here on France 24.